Hey, what's up there, YouTubers? It's me again, Brian, aka Gamer55551, and I am back with a My Two Cent video for this week, for the week of December 25th to December 31st, though. I'm sure most of you are going to be gearing up on Saturday for New Year's Eve and all that stuff. Hopefully all of you have a happy and safe New Year's, whether it's with friends or family or just going out to party, whatever that might be. Hopefully you do it in a safe manners and all that stuff. But anyway, we got 4 stories to cover, including a story with Zelda Tears for Kingdom, supposedly Tears of the Kingdom, of maybe some sort of online functionality. Some reports about Microsoft, including ranging from the accusing going after basically, the FTC over there, supposedly resistance against the Activision Blizzard deal, to even one of Activision Blizzard Studios is looking at the idea of unionization, to basically Mistwalker and reports that they think they could be working on another game and all, to even rumors about the Switch Pro, but this time with it being claimed that Switch Pro is canceled or anything like that. So, but anyway, if you're interested in where I got the source of these information, so links will be in the description of this video, so you can watch this on YouTube. But before we get started, I like to do what I like to call the quick My Two Cents, stories that kind of caught my attention, but I'm not going to go into a huge amount of details though. The first one has to do with basically a report about, in terms of games sold on consoles at the very least, in terms of physical versus digital, with a report coming out that 72% of console games sold in 2022 were digital, versus 28%, which is basically physical. Though it does seem to indicate clearly, though, that we are moving more and more towards that all digital future. I know there are some folks who are resistant against it. I can understand some reservations about it, though, but it's pretty obviously. I mean, look at like the Xbox Series S, for example. I mean, that has done pretty well for Microsoft, to be exact, though. We also learned that Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, the developers teased a big announcement for 2023. Unknown for what it is at this point, though. It could be basically more content for Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, to the possibility that it could be maybe the next game from the developers of Bloodstained, from those who did Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. So we'll have to wait and see what announcement they'll have for 2023, though. We also have an article from Nintendo Life that talks about Sega's Sky of Arcadia, a game that was originally released back during the Sega's Dreamcast era, and also ported over to the Nintendo GameCube under the name Director's Cut and all. It's basically 20 years old, though, and it certainly is, and I kind of have to agree with the article. It's long overdue. I would love to see a remake or a remaster of that game. I would like to see it come to the Nintendo Switch. I know some of the folks who worked on the game would eventually work on Valkyrie Chronicles, a favorite series of mine from Sega and all, but I would love to see Skies of Arcadia get like a remaster or a remake treatment. Hell, I'll be open to a sequel if they ever do that, to be exact, though. We also learned that apparently the actor who voiced Kratos in the God of War 2018 and the recent release of God of War Ragnarok, it seems to have broken the world's record in terms of the longest, speech, after receiving an award. I think the last one was back, according to what I've been hearing, back like in the 1930s. So, wow, that's kind of interesting to see how so that's another achievement he could add to it, voicing Kratos and breaking the world's record for longest acceptance speech and all. We also learned that Yuji Naka has been indicted in the insider trading at Square Enix, though. Excuse me, not great news for the guy, though. I mean, after Balan Wonderworld, he's just sort of disappeared and all, and just hearing this, it's just really unfortunate how far he has sort of fallen, and to be exact, though. We also learned that supposedly there is a report on a trophy on the PS4 version of Persona Portable, I think for 3 and 4, where you have to beat the game twice to unlock this trophy, though. Even though this is on the PS4, I assume it's going to be one of the achievements for the Xbox version, to be exact, though. I don't know if this means, beat the game, if there's a new game plus in it, if it's beat the game without doing a new Game Plus or not. So it remains to be seen, though. But still, Persona 3 and Persona 4 I am looking forward to, especially when it comes to the Nintendo Switch and all. Still a little bit awkward that they didn't release those first and instead decided to bring Persona 5 Royal over to the Switch and the Xbox, though. But I mean, it is what it is, though. We also learned that supposedly one of the voice actors who basically worked on the game Deathloop is still, still hiring them, though. So no word on what that might be. It could be DLC content for Deathloop. It could be a Deathloop 2, or it could be another game that Arcane could be working on. So it remains to be seen exactly what this might be, though. It wouldn't surprise me if it's, DLC for Deathloop, though, although I wouldn't rule out a sequel to Deathloop in any way, though. We also learned that a producer over at Sega is very interested in possibly reviving Billy Hatchet and the Giant Egg. This was a game exclusively for the Nintendo GameCube. I believe it came out back in 2003, though. It was an interesting title and all that in terms of basically, the idea of using, an egg and everything, an egg and all that stuff. Game didn't unfortunately sell very well, so it's unclear. Obviously, the series just remained dormant, although some of the characters appeared in Sega's and Sonic's All-Star Racing and all. Personally, I wouldn't mind a remaster or remake of Billy Hatchet and the Giant Egg. I wouldn't mind a sequel at all. I mean, why not? Give it a shot, though. I mean, Sonic has been seeing a revival lately, though, thanks to the success of, not only the first two Sonic movies, but Sonic Frontier has certainly seemed to have gotten a positive response, at least from consumers out there, and it seems to be selling very well. So why not give, Billy Hatchet another shot, along with Skies of Arcadia and all. We also learned that basically someone did a mod for Elden Ring that basically used Pokemon Scarlet and Violet into it, though, and I'm not a huge mod person, though, but there are times when I see some of the mods and they are very creative and all, and this one, I'll admit, it is, while weird, still creative, nevertheless, to see the characters of Pokemon running around the world of Elden Ring. It's an odd concept, but a very interesting concept, nevertheless, though. We also learned that supposedly an expansion for the Kingdom of Amalur: Re-Reckoning for the Nintendo Switch has gotten last minute delayed and will be out next year in 2023. It is a little bit unfortunate, but hopefully for Switch owners we won't have to wait too long, though, to be exact, though. But unfortunately, that is what it is, though. It's nice to see this game nevertheless getting an expansion, though. It's really sad what happened to the history of the game when that came out in 2011, and the whole debacle of a mess with Kurt Stealing, if I'm saying the name correctly, 3-8 Studios, Big Game Studios, and all that stuff. So it's nice to hear about, THQ Nordic reviving this series. So it's certainly nice. It is a fun game. I've been enjoying it also on the Nintendo Switch as well, though. It's another game for those who may have beaten Skyrim or are looking for another Skyrim-like game, to be exact. So it's definitely one I would definitely recommend take a look at, though. We also learned that the popular YouTube channel Did You Know Gaming that recently got a copyright strike from Nintendo over basically one of the games they were talking about in terms of this Hyrule style game that Retro Studio might have been working on. Apparently an update was made that they got that strike removed and all that stuff, so it's certainly nice for them, though. I understand Nintendo is very picky about protecting their IPs, and there are some cases where I will agree with them on that, but there are times when I will admit, and this is coming from a long-time Nintendo fan, that they can go a little bit overboard at a lot, though. And this is one of the cases where I feel, yeah, they went a little bit overboard, to be exact, though. So glad that the strike got removed, though, but it does kind of highlight it does raise and highlight how the copyright strike is being abused, though, and it shows that also highlights how our copyright laws haven't been yet updated as technology is moving fast and all, though. We also learned that basically, supposedly on Reddit, a leaker seems to be basically teasing the possibility of a Metroid Prime announcement. Now, nothing is confirmed at this moment, though, and a grain of salt should always be taken whenever these kind of leaks happen, though. But still, I wouldn't rule out the possibility that we might hear a Metroid Prime related stuff in 2023. Maybe this Metroid Prime remaster of the first one, it could be announced sometime next year though. Maybe we'll hear, or maybe something like Metroid Prime Trilogy. Maybe we'll finally see Metroid Prime 4, maybe in some form in 2023. So I won't completely rule out that possibility, but I will still take it with a grain of salt nevertheless, though, until we have official confirmations and all. We also know that the developers of Stalker 2 released a new trailer that showed the world that they are working on. And honestly, what I'm seeing so far is very, very impressive. And it's definitely one of the games I'm looking forward to try out on Game Pass, though. The one thing that kind of annoys me from this trailer is that this is based off the PC version. And I'm a little worried about the console version and all. We saw what happened with Cyberpunk 2077 and that mess that turned into be. I will give the developers the benefit of the doubt for the time being, though, especially considering the pressure they're on to work on this game, especially, you know, with the whole situation with Russia and Ukraine and the war going on there, though. But based on what I've seen so far, it definitely does look impressive, though. Unfortunately, there is some sad news about that game also, is that one of the developers unfortunately died due to trying to protect one of the cities from the Russia's invasion and all that stuff, though. It's really unfortunate. A lot of the developers have been contributing to the war in Ukraine and all, and it's really sad to hear this person died doing what he can to protect his home from, you know, the Russian military and all. And I would like to say that my heart goes out to his family and friends and everyone out there who knew the person, though. Really sad that this happened to him, though, but I applaud the fact that he was doing what he can to try to help protect his town from the, invading, Russian army and all. Okay, with the quick my 2 cent part out of the way, we'll get started with our first story, and this one has to do with the whole Switch Pro rumor, and I'm sure most of you have heard rumors back and forth about the Switch Pro for a long, long time. Ever since the Switch came out back in 2017 and kind of exploded with the success that it has been, there's always been talks about the possibility of a Switch Pro and all. We've seen articles, whether from Bloomberg has reported on it, to rumors back and forth about it, to be exact, though. And while there have been some parts that have gotten right, though, such as when one rumor pointed out this new Switch having an OLED screen on it, which turned out to be true, other parts never turned out to be true, such as the 4K rumor and all that stuff, though. And now a report, at least from Digital Foundry, seemed to indicate that, at least according to them, Nintendo may have had plans at one point to release a Switch Pro, but that doesn't seem to be the case anymore, though. In an article published by Nintendo Life and other sites as well, it reads that, quote, basically, reports suggest that Nintendo was planning to release a more powerful variation with an improved screen, but despite numerous sources seeming collaborating this, including developers who have apparently been told about it, no Switch Pro was forthcoming, and the arrival of the OLED edition seemed to indicate that another hardware update won't be on its way for a while. Now the gang behind Digital Foundry are claiming that the system that was in Nintendo plan at one point, but was eventually canceled. As of now, there are no plans to release a more powerful version of the Switch before its successor arrives. This rumor has been confirmed by Digital Foundry by more than one unnamed developer. As for Nintendo's next console, Digital Foundry says we shouldn't expect to see it next year. Digital Foundry also speculates that Nintendo is worried about transition from the Switch to its next system. It's a fair assumption to make, given Nintendo went from boom to the Wii to the bust with the Wii U and back again with the Switch, but one would think the company is wise enough to stick with the hybrid approach, given it has proven so successful and essentially its own niche. But who knows? Now, obviously, none of this has been confirmed or anything like that, so information like this should always be, as like anything, with a grain of salt. That being said, though, it would not have surprised me if Nintendo had at one point considered the idea of releasing a Switch Pro and all that stuff. The idea, sort of similar to what we saw with the DS, where we went from the DS to DS Lite to DSi, to what we saw with the Nintendo 3DS, where we went from the regular 3DS to a more to the new 3DS tended to be a bit more powerful than the old 3DS though. So it wasn't surprising if Nintendo was considering that idea. As for being worried about going from the Switch to the next console, I could kind of understand, considering what happened with the Wii to the Wii U in terms of trying to make lightning strike twice with the Wii U, and that proved not to be successful and all. That said, I do think there's going to be a point where Nintendo is going to have to release their next system, possibly maybe a more powerful Switch though. I really cannot see Nintendo trying to abandon the hybrid concept though. I think it would be extremely difficult for them if they tried to do that, given how successful the Switch has been, which still is going on very well to be exact though. But I don't deny that it's high time that Nintendo considers looking at a more powerful hardware, maybe look at a more powerful Switch. I'm not saying powerful like on the level of PS5 or Xbox Series S and X, although that's not out of the realm of possibility, but maybe something that's more powerful than the current Switch, possibly maybe as powerful or maybe a little bit more powerful than what the PS4 or the Xbox One is, to be exact, and maybe looking at different chipsets that NVIDIA has to basically seems to see if those can use the power of their new system though. I mean, we know they have a deal with NVIDIA at least up to 2 decades though, and we know that basically supposedly NVIDIA is maybe working on new versions of like the Tegra chip or something like that. So it might be high time to consider Nintendo, releasing, maybe if they're making a Switch 2 to basically do like one that really shows off maybe a more powerful Tegra and all. So, I mean, again, this is all speculation at this time though, at least according to what Digital Foundry says. But overall, I wouldn't rule this rumor. I wouldn't rule this out as being true or anything like that. I think it is possible at one point Nintendo may have had a Switch Pro at one point, though, or the idea of it, and then just scrapped it given how successful the Switch is doing right now. But at the same time, I do think we're at a point where Nintendo may have to start talking about their next system. Maybe we won't see it this year, but maybe we'll hear something. We'll see it in 2023, but maybe we'll hear something about it in 2023. As for what their next system might be, I personally am standing behind the possibility that they're going to stick with the hybrid concept. I can't randomly see them go back to having a console and a handheld or anything like that, though. I just think it would be very difficult for them. So I personally think more than likely they'll stick with the hybrid concept, but time will ultimately tell if that turns out to be true or not. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to part 2. In this one, we're going to be talking about the developer Mistwalker, and apparently they may be working on a new game and all. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, we're back with part 2 of my 2 cent video, and for this one, we're going to be talking about the developer Mistwalker. Now, for RPG fans, Mistwalker should be a name that sounds familiar to a lot of folks, though. It was set up by one of the original creators of the Final Fantasy series, though, and they have put out several titles that have gotten, a lot of, critical good response and everything like that. Very good ones, though. Games like Blue Dragon, Lost Odyssey, a game I'm currently playing on my Xbox Series S. The Last Story that was originally released on the Wii, that was part of, Operation Rainfall. And last year they released a game on the Apple Arcade called Fantasian, if I'm saying the name correctly, though. However, they have been kind of quiet since that release and all that stuff. And some people are kind of wondering what they may or may not be working on. Well, recently, the head of Mistwalker recently made some statements that seem to indicate that they are indeed in the early stage of working on what they describe as a dark fantasy type of a game. In several articles, this one from My Nintendo, it reads that, quote, another prominent video game developer was asked about their plans for 2023 by Famitsu. Feature is Hinoma. I apologize if I'm not saying the name correctly. It's just one of the creators of the Final Fantasy series. The acclaimed head of RPG studio Mistwalker jokingly told the publication that he thought it was going to be the year he retires, but he said, "I decided to try to give this another go." He said that he and the rest of the team are hard at work on developing what has been described as a dark fantasy game. Platform has not been mentioned, and it seems as though the project could be in the early stage of development. Mistwalker is the studio behind such games as Blue Dragon, Lost Odyssey, Fantasian, also Lost Story, and I think several games on mobile devices and all. The fact that they're working on a new game is kind of interesting, and it'll be very interesting to see what systems this game will be on. Will it be like another mobile game or something on, like, say, the Apple Arcade? Or are we talking about something we could either see on the PS5 or the Xbox Series X and S or the Nintendo Switch or whatever Nintendo's next system may be? Time will ultimately tell whether where that game is going to go or not, though. Personally, I wouldn't mind a new IP or anything like that, but I wouldn't be against the idea of maybe, like, say, Lost Odyssey 2, if that ever happens, or The Last Story 2, though. I mean, heck, I would love to see a remake or a remaster of The Last Story on that was on the Nintendo Wii, on the Nintendo Switch and all. I know that developers have made claims that they don't like to remaster certain games, though, but given the success, the Xenoblade Chronicles series has seen on the Nintendo Switch, including Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, which is somewhat of a remake and remaster of the first game now on the Nintendo Switch and all, I personally think it's high time to see something like The Last Story on the Nintendo Switch. That and Pandora's Tower, at least from my perspective. But at the end of the day, it is the developer's call. But in either way, it will be kind of interesting to see what kind of game they will be working on. Will it still be an RPG or something completely different? So time will ultimately tell, and it does sound like we probably won't be hearing anything for a while, to say the least. So overall, great to see that Mistwalker is working on a brand new game. As for what platform it's going to be on, obviously at this point, it's too early to tell which platform it's going to be, and certainly too early to tell. It's too early to tell what the game's going to look like, how the combat mechanics are going to work, or anything like that. So it's obviously in the early stage, but nevertheless, kind of exciting to hear Mistwalker is working on a brand new game, though. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we'll get to part 3. And this one has to do with Activision, Blizzard, and Microsoft, ranging from Microsoft making some interesting comments in regards of the FTC to the possibility of another union happening at Activision Blizzard. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 3 of my 2 cent video, and for this one, we're going to be taking a look at basically a situation surrounding, Microsoft and Activision Blizzard. Now, the whole deal with this stuff has really been going up and down and been on the news a lot, though. And we've basically been hearing, the FTC's push to try to not see this deal go through and all. And I'm still a little mixed on the FTC's handling of this in a way. I'm not against them really taking a look at this deal, but I'm not as hell-bent as they are or the head of the FTC is, to be exact. I'm also worried about this kind of situation we saw, which some might view this as a political view or not, how the FTC tried to stop the Time Warner AT&T deal, mostly because Trump felt that CNN was hurting his feelings and everything like that, and a judge had to rule that the FTC, you can't do that and all. And I'm wondering if we're going to see something like that, or even the possibility that this deal could maybe make its way to the Supreme Court. So it remains to be seen if that's going to happen or not. But it seems as though Microsoft has really decided, supposedly at least to them, stop playing the nice guy and seem to really go after the FTC over. They claim that the FTC is violating the Constitution and all. In an article from Game Informer, it reads that, quote though, basically Microsoft has fired back with a response to saying the FTC is violating their Fifth Amendment right to due process. The full document claims that the deal should be allowed to go through for several other reasons as well, stating that Xbox and Activision Blizzard are just two of the 100 of game developers, game publishers. The claim that the FTC violated the Constitution are listed on page 34 and are just a handful of defense against the lawsuit in a list of 24. While the base of the FTC lawsuit is that Microsoft deal will suppress the competition by limiting access to certain titles, Microsoft responds claim that Xbox wants to grow its presence in the mobile gaming market, and 3/4 of Activision gamers are more than a third of its revenue coming from the mobile offering. The FTC does not appear to be concerned with this. Their complaint excludes mobile gaming as a relevant market and instead focus the fact that Microsoft will own one of the largest gamers franchise in the world, Call of Duty though. The acquisition would place Microsoft in the position to make the series an Xbox exclusive, but the company has repeatedly reiterated that they have no plans to make this happen. In this most recent response to the FTC, Microsoft claimed that its goal is actually to make the series more accessible. In addition to promising the series will remain on PlayStation console, Microsoft committed to bring the series to Nintendo consoles for the next 10 years, throwing any exclusivity out the window. The acquisition of a single game by a third-place console manufacturers cannot upheave a high competitive industry, Microsoft response says. This is practically so when the manufacturer has made it clear it will not withhold the game. So it's certainly very interesting to see how this whole legal issue is starting to play out, and it'll be very interesting to see how the courts rule on this one, to the possibility of basically maybe this going to the Supreme Court or not. So it will remain to be seen whether or not it does. Personally, I still think the deal might go through, though. There may be some negotiations behind the scenes or anything like that. I still believe it's most likely it will. I could be wrong entirely, though. I won't deny that, though, but I still believe most likely it will. And honestly, as far as Call of Duty goes, I mean, again, I'm not really the biggest Call of Duty fan, so I'm not bothered if it doesn't come to the Nintendo Switch or a Nintendo platform for that matter. That's not to say I'm against it or anything like that. If Microsoft is serious and they want to bring Call of Duty to like the Nintendo Switch or whatever Nintendo's next system is, I mean, that's fine. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. They brought Cuphead, they brought Ori and the Will of the Wasp and Ori and the Blind Forest to the Nintendo Switch, so I'm not completely against it. But even if they didn't bring Call of Duty over, it still wouldn't matter because Nintendo has been successful. The Switch has been successful even without Call of Duty. And for the record, they also have M-rated games. May not be Call of Duty M-rated games, but they do have M-rated games on that system. So we'll have to wait and see how this all plays out. In the meantime, it seems to be that one of the developers at Activision Blizzard Studio is looking to push for unionization and wants to follow in the footsteps of what Microsoft has done, which, at least according to Microsoft, is remain union neutral and all. In an article from Windows Central, though, it reads that, quote, workers at PROLETARIAT, I apologize, I'm not saying the name correctly, shared on Tuesday that 57 of the studio quality assurance team, engineers, and others are unionizing in partnership with the Communication Workers of America, CWA. The studio previously worked on games Spellbreaker before being acquired by Activision Blizzard back on July 1st, 2022. Post-acquisition, the team has begun assisting on future World of Warcraft content. And in the announcement of unionizations, titles the studio's worker alliance. The workers explain they are asking for a more flexible PTO, pay time off, policy clearance communication, and increase in opportunity and transparency and accountability. Though the employees are asking for Activision Blizzard's leadership not to engage in union busting like was attempted in the recently established union at Raven Software and Blizzard Albany, formerly Vicera Visions. Instead, the workers note Activision Blizzard users could choose to follow Microsoft's example in dealing with unions. Microsoft is notably in the process of acquiring Activision Blizzard for $69 billion though. Activision's leadership attempt to prevent its workers from joining together in a union has not only been a waste of time and money, they have caused further damage to morals and underline the company's reputation for creating a toxic, hostile work environment, says CWA Secretary Treasurer Sarah in a press release. Microsoft has shown that even the largest corporations can choose a different path and allow workers to freely and fairly choose whether or not they want union representation. It's not too late for Activision's leadership to change course and begin to repair the company's public image and the relationship with their workers by recognizing, sorry, I can't say this, I have a hard time saying the studio's name, worker unions, and commitment to productive engagement at the bargaining table. Microsoft signed an agreement with CWA earlier this year, promising to remain neutral in any unionization effort by Activision Blizzard employee. Separately, the company also promised to remain neutral if the existing employees form unions. Most recently, over 300 Bethesda software employees began the process for unionization under Microsoft, which has remained neutral so far. Now, my position on this, to be for matter, and this is coming from someone who is a blue-collar worker and who is part of a union, though, I do want to point that out, though, is that I do think that Activision, the higher-ups, should remain neutral on this. Assuming what Microsoft is doing is right and remain neutral, I think they should as well. I'm a firm believer that employees should be the ones to determine if unionization is the right direction to go or not, though. While I agree that unions should not bully, intimidate, or threaten people to join a union, though, I would also like to state the same rule applies to those who use any type of union busting tactics whatsoever. And this sort of reinforces an argument that I may have said in the past, though, is that we're seeing a push for unions in industries and businesses that we've never really would have thought, though. Doesn't mean that's going to be the end of unions supporting blue-collar workers, but what we're seeing now is with video game testers or people working in the gaming industry pushing for unionization, to even white-collar jobs that I never really would have thought I would ever see them push for unionization. Nevertheless, though, I do believe the employees have a right to choose whether or not they think unionization is the right direction to go or not. And I think it would be in the higher-ups at Activision Blizzard's best interest to remain neutral and let the employees make that call, to be exact, though, okay? Employees have a right to make that decision on their own if they feel unionization is the right direction or not. Just like I think employees should never face retaliation just because they ask a question in regards of unionization, though, or anything like that. So we'll see what happens here, though. While I won't go out of my way to encourage unionization, I certainly do not believe employees should be denied the right to hold a vote on unionization. So we'll see if this vote does happen, and if it does, though, what direction the employees decide to go. So overall, though, for Microsoft, apparently they're stop playing the nice guy and they're really going after the FTC. It'll be very interesting to see how this is handled in court, though. I still think basically the deal will still go through, though. There may have to be some concessions still, but I expect most likely the deal will go through. I could be wrong, but who knows? As far as this another push for unionization in the gaming industry, though, like I said, it's got to be up to the employees, and they have to determine whether they feel this is the right direction to go or not. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to part 4. And this one has to do with supposedly a report that the upcoming Zelda Tears of the Kingdom might have some online functionality and all. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with our fourth and final part of our My 2 Cent video, and for this one, we're going to be taking a look at Zelda Tears of the Kingdom and the possibility there could be some sort of online functionality to the game, though. Now, one of the biggest games that I'm looking forward to next year is going to be Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, the sequel to the 2017 Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, though. I did enjoy Breath of the Wild, and I still think it is a good game. There are certainly some areas I am very mixed on. Weapons durability is one of those. Some people are mixed about the idea of not having dungeons or something like that. But to me, the broad consensus is that I definitely enjoyed the game. I definitely like the direction that they were going with it, though. And I'm very curious to see how Tears of the Kingdom is going to play out, though. Because judging by what I'm seeing so far, though, I'm getting somewhat of a little bit of a Skyward Sword vibe out of the game, to be exact. On top of that, I've heard there have been stories about the possibility of this being darker than, say, Majora's Mask, and I'm kind of curious to see if that turns out to be true, if this is going to be much darker than Majora's Mask, because Majora's Mask still remains one of my favorite Zelda games of all time and all. Well, recently, it seems as though someone found something that seems to indicate the possibility that there may be some sort of online functionality for Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, though. In an article from Gaming Rant, though, according to the article, it reads that, quote, a recent advertisement for the highly anticipated The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom implies that the game will contain Nintendo Switch Online support. The reveal has led to fan speculation on whether this new information hints at something bigger for gameplay. Sadly, there's a possibility a much simpler answer than what most fans are hoping for. Not much is known until now about Nintendo's new Zelda adventure. Since the announcement of The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, Nintendo has released the bare minimum, with the most exciting information shown in brief sneak peeks at gameplay. However, there was a lot of speculation of what it will involve. Now, a recent advertisement has caused a stir, and even more speculation of what the game holds for fans, though. One fan sent a picture of the advertisement that shows the Nintendo Switch Online promo as part of the main highlight of the game. It's possible Nintendo that The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom could introduce its first multiplayer capability in a first-party Zelda game. However, it's most likely that the Nintendo Shop online support is to showcase that Tears of the Kingdom will have cloud save option. Another possibility is that it's simple for future downloadable content, though. Nothing is confirmed yet about the game's potential online features, so any speculation up in front about Nintendo Switch's online advertisement is pure speculation. Nintendo has kept The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom details hush-hush for a while. It's possible that the company could go the extra mile with the most anticipated title of 2023 and surprise fans with something major. Either way, the advertisement is enough to make fans raise curious eyebrows and all. Now, again, as what the article says, I do kind of agree that there are many ways you could technically look at this, though. It may not be much. It could just be them promoting, hey, this game support cloud save if you want to take advantage of that, and that certainly is a possibility. But could it really take advantage of Nintendo Switch's online service and maybe offer something else though? I mean, that's a possibility as well. I mean, the idea of offering downloadable content is certainly not out of the realm of the possibility. We're seeing that with Mario Kart 8 with the course boosters and all that stuff being offered for those who are part of Nintendo Switch's online service. So that certainly isn't out of the realm of possibility. We could see something similar to that in Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Other possibilities could be maybe something along the lines of maybe sending messages to other players who are playing Tears of the Kingdom. It's kind of similar to what we saw when The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker was released on the Wii U, where you could send messages, to other players on Miiverse and all. Maybe you could send items to other players though. Maybe we'll see something similar to with like what we saw in Elden Rings, where you could see other players and see what happened to them, like how did they die or anything like that. So there's a whole lot of possibilities of what direction Nintendo could go with this, especially with this advertisement. But like anything, it may not be anything big at all. It could just be something small, just promoting Nintendo Switches online. So I would take this information with some grain of salt and just approach with some level of caution though. But I certainly won't rule out anything though. So overall, it's kind of interesting though see the Switch's online service for The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom though. It could be something big, it could be something small, but time will ultimately tell. Once we start getting more information, maybe Nintendo will do a Treehouse or Direct on Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Maybe we'll get more information on it through there, though. That certainly is not out of the realm of the possibility. And I'm also kind of curious if, like with Breath of the Wild, if this game will have amiibo support. If it does, will it be similar to what Breath of the Wild did, or are we looking at something completely new or not? Or if there's going to be no amiibo support whatsoever. Okay, this concludes this My 2 Cent video for this week. And again, these are my opinion. What are yours? What are your thoughts about this comment made by Digital Family in regards to the Switch Pro? Do you agree with them? Do you think Nintendo probably quietly killed any attempt for a Nintendo Switch Pro? Or do you think that a Switch Pro is still happening? Or do you believe that we're just going to wait until the next system, probably a Switch 2, or probably something completely different or anything like that? What are your thoughts about Mistwalker working on a brand new game and all that stuff? Are you curious to see what this dark fantasy game might be though? Do you think it's going to be coming to consoles, whether it's PS5, Xbox Series S and X, or Nintendo Switch, or Nintendo's next system? Or do you expect it will be something like maybe for mobile devices like Androids or iPhones or something like that, or even something for Apple Arcade and all? What are your thoughts about with Microsoft and Activision Blizzard? Do you think Microsoft was right to go after the FTC? Do you think they violated their Fifth Amendment or anything like that? Or do you think the FTC is right though? And what are your thoughts about, another studio pushing for unionization in Activision Blizzard? Do you think this is the right direction to go? Do you think it's not the right direction to go? And what are your thoughts about this Nintendo Switch Online being mentioned in an advertisement for the upcoming Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom though? Do you think it could be an indication of something big and all, or something to take advantage of Nintendo Switch's online service? Or do you expect it to be something minor or really just nothing at all, just saying, hey, we support Nintendo Switch's online service, so it's nothing really that important or anything big? Do you agree with what I said in this video? Do you disagree? Do you have a difference of opinion? As always, sound off in the comment section below. Let me know what you think. And if you do like this video, I hope you hit the like button. I would appreciate it. And I hope you do subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you do, make sure you hit the bell icon for notifications of any new videos I put up. Also, feel free to share this video if you want to, and feel free to donate to my channel if you like. You could do it through PayPal me or Patreon. Links will be in the description of this video, assuming you're watching this on YouTube. And I will see you again next time when I do another video. Hopefully that'll be soon. Until then, from Southern California, I wish you all a good day, and I hope all of you have a happy and safe New Year, though, regardless of whether you're going out or not. And if you are, whether it's with friends or family, whatever the case might be, Hope you guys have a happy and safe New Year, and I'll see you in 2023 then. Bye!